Hey, good evening, everybody. This is Jeff, Junior Hockey Advisor, Junior Hockey Live, 9 o'clock tonight on a Wednesday. Just waiting for Bloomer. I'm not sure where he is right now. We'll get to him a lot. We got just a ton of stuff tonight. We're going to have a lot of fun. We got a lot of things to talk about, and we're going to have just a wonderful time. We got a special guest jumping on first. There's Bloomer. We finally got him on. I always forget. Do we do you on the left or the right? I always forget.
I'm a left side type
You're a
of
left
guy.
side guy. Okay, we'll keep you there as long as I'm just a little above you in the seat there. There. Okay, listen, Mike. I know we didn't even talk about this, but I want to start off by recognizing one of my longest and dearest friends in an accomplishment this last week that is unbelievable. He was very, very mild and modest about this. And he's just a super guy. He's probably one of the nicest human beings you can ever meet. And he is in the waiting room right now. And there's a reason why I'm bringing him on. And I'm going to, first, I want to kind of explain why I'm bringing him on. I'm going to take you off the screen for a second, Mike. And the reason why he's coming on, it's this guy right here. Whoops, sorry about that. Wrong button. I got to get to the right button. And the right button is, of course, I can't find it when I need it. Okay, there we go. It's this guy right here. Not the guy in the middle, the super sexy guy. It's the guy just to the right of me. That's Michael Hermbrodt. I've known him since 83 or 84. I've known him forever. Consider him one of my best friends in the world. And he accomplished something this last week that is pretty darn cool. And I'm going to pull that up too, because I think it is important that we recognize this, especially for an old veteran. He made the Hall of Fame. And I'm trying to pull up the picture now, if I can get that up there. There he is, Michael Hermbrodt. He is the Illinois State. He's actually coached all three teams. I'm not sure why the little Hall of Fame thing is not popping up there, but sorry about that, Mike. But this is unbelievable because here's a guy that just loves hockey, got involved with hockey, changed a career. There's a lot. I want to bring him on and talk about it a little bit. I know this is not normal for us, but I just thought it was important that we do this. So I'm going to put him up here. I'll put Bloomer back up here, and we can all talk about the situation here. Michael, how are you, sir?
Doing great. Doing great.
There it is. Hall of Fame. Congratulations.
Back when we could grow hair in the Marine Corps, we weren't allowed to have it. Now we can't grow hair, and so it's too bad.
It is. So there's just a lot of things to talk about here. For going back, I don't want to go through all of our history, but like I said, we've known each other forever. We've been great friends forever. Hockey, you and I have always looked at hockey differently, and that's the best way to put it. But it seems like we always get to the same end point, even though we see things completely differently. Mike is mild, more of a nurturing personality than my personality. I tend to handle things a little differently, but it works out extremely well. Hall of Fame, Illinois State. That's incredible. This is the thing I think that is most just incredible about this is, Mike, this is the second career issue for you. You started off in IT, or you went down that road.
Yeah,
you were. Go ahead.
I was always involved in hockey. I mean, I was never not involved in hockey.
That's true. I didn't mean it that way, but
I walked into a rink I'm told I learned to skate when I was 18 months old, and I don't think there's been more than 3 or 4 months in my lifetime I haven't been in a hockey rink. But after we got out of the Marine Corps and we started our adult lives and all that, it was a hobby. I got involved with helping with, the rink I grew up in the house league and maybe the adult league. And then I got involved with running an inline hockey league for the town that I was living in, just kind of giving back to the community. And just while I was an IT guy, I realized I really like what I'm doing for free a lot more than what I was getting paid for.
Right.
So I just had to figure out a way to get paid for what I would do for free.
So that took you from Chicago. You were living in the northern suburbs of Chicago at the time.
Yep.
Gumsby, or what the hell's the name of that town?
Gurney. It's
Gurney,
where
Gumsby, Gurney, all the same thing. Uh,
Illinois.
and then you're in Bloomington now?
Yeah, so I was in Gurney, which is right at the Wisconsin-Illinois border, running a facility in the mall, ice rink, family entertainment center, all that, running the hockey program. From there, did that for about 10, 11 years. My daughter came to school down at Illinois State, and through that, I met the head coach of the Illinois State program, which at the time they were ACHA D2 and D3, and their D2 team was kind of top of the food chain. They'd gone to nationals, were third in the country. They were the last ACHA team to beat Penn State before Penn State went to NCAA. And I came on to be his cone mover essentially the next year, and we went back to nationals that next year. And then that's when we started talking about jumping up to D1 and D2. And then it's kind of been a whirlwind since then. Now it's 10 years down the road with that, and now we have three teams. Our D1 team is top 20 in the country again this year. D2 is competitive, and I am sort of moving my way down the chain of command. I just took over the D3 team, and just kind of rebuilding that program as well.
That's awesome. So the thing that I don't even know, how do you not promote this more? How many? First of all, why wasn't I invited? Okay, I set your career up by injuring you. Okay, if it wasn't for me, you would never be where you're at right now.
When you said we look at hockey differently, I said, yeah, I was on the ice. You were in the penalty box.
That's a little truth to that. There's more than a little truth to that. I'm referring to one time Michael and I were on the power play in practice, and we were working on it down on one end of the ice. And I don't know why, but one guy kept getting really aggressive on Michael. I mean, over and over and over again. And Mike's just he's the most patient guy in the world, but at one point he just, had enough. And I was up on the top of the power play. Mike was on the wall, and I've never seen Michael drop his gloves or, he'd stick somebody once in a while, a competitive, fiery guy, but on the ice, but never a fight. So he drops his glove, and I thought, oh man, there's my bread and butter going down the tubes there. If he's got to fight this guy. So I come flying in from the point, and I dove from about 10 feet away, trying to, get in the middle of the two of them. And the scrum moved, and my helmet, if it was football, it would have been a targeting call. I would have been ejected from the game and not been able to move on to the next game. My helmet caught Michael in the ribs, broke a bunch of ribs right before, and he was all excited because it was a big scouting time. There was a lot of NCAA Division I scouts that were going to be watching, and I kind of blew it for him. And I don't know how he stayed friends with me. I mean, Michael, I'm sure you've got a little different twist on that story, but I think I got the gist of it right.
Yeah, what I remember is actually at Camp Pendleton, there was a rodeo going on that weekend, and the only way I could get comfortable at all was just to hardly breathe. And I was sitting in the base hospital, and then I finally got into the doctor, and he said, "So you got kicked by a bull?" And I thought about it, and I went,
yeah. Well, listen, Michael, I didn't want to keep you all night. I just wanted to make sure that, for those of you who don't know, Michael is part of our discussion group, the Junior Hockey Advisor discussion group. He is our ACHA expert. Every once in a while, you'll see him pop on there. I will put in the link of this, the Michael's acceptance speech, if you don't mind, Michael. I thought it was really interesting. You didn't mention me, but I knew in spirit that you were thinking about me at the time. And we'll put that up. And everybody, if you get a chance to say hi to Michael, if you see him in the ring, congratulate him. That's a huge honor. And thanks for taking some time for us tonight, Mike.
Appreciate it, guys.
All right, take care.
Coach.
All right, bye.
Okay, was that cool or what? Let me get the Hall of Fame out because
He's a good dude.
You are definitely not in the Hall of Fame, Bloomer.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not even close at this point.
Well, listen, I that just fired me up because I was just literally checking my Facebook stuff, and I followed this trail about some hockey stuff on another site, or not another site, another group, and that popped up, and I was like, "Holy smokes, you've got to be kidding me!" He's our own. He is part of the whole junior hockey discussion thing. So I'm so glad for him. I'm so happy. There's nothing better than something like that. That's so cool.
Well, he does a great job too for Illinois State's program, and he's not kidding when he says just how dominant they were, and they still are, to be honest with you. With how they're at the D1 level now, which is a whole different animal. You're going against different programs that you weren't previously. But I've got, if he's been there for 10 years, I probably have over 10 kids that I've coached that have gone on to play within that program, and all of them love it. So what they do down there for us being here in Chicago is it's great for the kids, and it's a really good environment for them to play in. And, he's doing it. It's part of the success of what that program is him.
Yeah. And, as the night goes on and we discuss a few things, one of the biggest things we want to discuss is where you fit. What are the odds of making the NAHL? Where do you fit? Can you play junior hockey? Is it viable? And we'll circle back around to ACHA, but if ACHA comes up and you're in the Midwest and you want a quality program, you will not hear many, if any, people say anything about Illinois State except for very positive things.
Right.
Let's before we got a ton of great stuff to talk about tonight. We are going to talk about the NUL and the USHL and all the things as far as getting into that level and doing things at that level. The other thing we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about advisors, what kind of contracts they have, what you should be looking for on that. We're gonna talk about some of the things we got coming up. But basically what we're going to do is we're grabbing things off our discussion group and just making sure that we get through them. Before that, Michael, how's your week go? Did you get any hockey involved? Do you do anything hockey-wise?
It's always hockey. It really is. But I did mention, I do all the on-ice training for the hockey school here, and completely forgot that I have a teacher's schedule now. So when it came to Monday, with it being Columbus Day, I got a little message Sunday night. Hey, just a reminder, no school tomorrow, so no skate. So that was a nice little surprise that I didn't have to get on the ice on Monday. But then,
so you just kept your little butt in bed with your toes under the
keep
sheets.
the pajamas on. Yeah, get the coffee going. Maybe 2-3 cups before I got to get moving.
You're a hot chocolate guy. You know it. You get up in the morning. You still got that.
Aren't you a tea guy?
I do enjoy a tea here and there. Yes, I do.
Yeah, that says a lot. I'm surprised you were the penalty box type of player, being the one drinking tea.
There's stories I could tell you, but I won't, because I think there's some statute of limitations issues still going on. So I won't share everything that from back in the day. But okay, let's talk a little bit about the first one that's been coming up on the board a lot is on our discussion group board. As I pull that back up so I can look at it as we're talking about it. If you haven't been to our discussion group in a while, first of all, join our discussion group if you're not part of our discussion group. Junior Hockey Advisor. There's great topics going on there. There's great archives on there. Just a ton of information. We've got so many new people on there that we always have to make sure that we regenerate topics and we start at the beginning and talk about things. And for some of you, it's old hat. But that's the veterans, and that's what's great about it is a lot of you jump in and help with the topics. I only go on once or twice a week and actually put a comment in it because the group collectively does such a good job with their synergy, good answers, yin and yang. Sometimes it steers off a little bit, and then we got to get it on topic. And we're not steering off right now. That's not the reason I think we should talk about some of the topics that are out there. I just think it's one of those things where there's some great topics going on the advisor board, Junior Hockey Advisor Discussion Group, and I wanted to do it. Hey, and while I'm at it, and Mike, maybe you can talk about this, how important is it to be part of our YouTube channel?
It's really important. I think we're growing. After our last episode, we actually hit quite a surge. So for those of you that shared it with your other hockey families, and maybe if you hadn't necessarily went from Facebook and joined it on YouTube, every bit helps. We're trying to get into for those that aren't familiar with how all these algorithms work and things like that. But once you get to a certain level of an audience, then you start populating and creating an even larger audience and getting out there for people that are searching for this type of content. So it makes those people find our content that much easier. So it is really important for us and for anybody who follows our show to realize that we're trying to do a lot of unbiased information for people to be able to listen to and make their own decisions because of. And there's a lot out there, and I know a lot of our fans and viewers share some of the other craziness that's out there that's in the same space that isn't really helpful in any way, but it's out there. It's nice for us to be able to kind of overtake some of that, and we do in certain mediums, but YouTube is one we're trying to grow. Twitter is still one that we're trying to grow. So any help that you guys can do would be greatly appreciated.
Okay, so one of the topics that's up on the board, and I'm going to try to share my screen, which I always screw up. So just be prepared for me to screw this up as usual. Wrong screen. Let's see if I can fix that. And if I can't, I can't, because I got Michael on, and that was as far as I really wanted to go. Okay, let's see if that's it. Nope, that's not it.
We're getting closer.
Bear with me. Okay, there we go. Now I just got to make that bigger so you can all see it. How big does that look on the screen, Boom?
We see more of your orange background than we do the content that we're trying to share.
You can all go there. Let's do it that way. Let's get back to the camera. You can all just go there. But some of the topics that were really big is the big one is John said my son would like to continue to play hockey in college. He just asked me the difference between ACHA and AAU. I wasn't so much concerned about that, but some of the comments got me going about ACHA and where that fits in. I think we got to kind of jump on that again a little bit. And then the next one that was really interested in, and folks out there, anybody that is got the ability, at the last second, Rendy Rhodey Latshaw is one of our people. She put the comment on about if your kid's goal is the NUL or the USHL and NCAC, what do you do? Just allow them to play juniors or wait for offers to reach out? And that spurred all kinds of great comments. But if one of you that are watching right now could give her a tap on the shoulder, let her know we're live, or she could put in the comments that she's with us right now. I did post that we're coming on, but this really was spurred off of Rendy's original question about how do you get offers and how do you move through the system. Mike, that's a great question. If I were just to walk up to you and say, as a parent, and say, Coach Bloom, how do I get an offer? Where would you start? What assuming you know nothing about the parent, how would you answer that?
Well, I'd first ask, how old is your player? Where is he currently playing? Try to get some background on who this player is and where his ability is. So even if I'm a U18 player and I play AAA, okay, great. What program do you play for? And how long have you been playing AAA? Because that'll give us a gauge of where their ability is. If they, not to throw different names out there, but if you're, coming from Victory Honda or you're coming from the middle of nowhere AAA, there's a different level within AAA of where your player's ability is. And if they're, looking for a USHL opportunity and they're a U18 AAA player, there's probably less than, 15 total kids playing U18 AAA that are going to get an opportunity to play in the USHL. Every given year, those numbers are fairly the same. So then NUL is the next, best opportunity for this player to get. So you kind of work your way down from there based on that information. Now, if somebody's, I coach at the AA level. If somebody on the team that I'm coaching says, Coach, I really want to play in the North American League, how can I be a Lone Star Brahma? Well, chances are you're not going to go from AA hockey at the U18 level directly into the North American League. you're going to have to play tier 3 juniors, whether it's the NA3, the USPHL, the NCDC, whether it's East or West. Go up to Canada and play in the CCHL. I could throw a bunch of other names out there, but of other leagues, but that's what you're going to have to do. And then you're going to have to earn your way from there into tier 2 juniors. So me going out there telling a parent, of a kid that I coach, no problem, you play for me, you're going to get to the North American League, I'd be flat out lying, because it just doesn't happen. It does happen periodically, but that's the exception to the rule. That's not, what's naturally happening over and over and over again. So, again, you got to find out what the level of the player is, and then be realistic with what is the next step you can get to. And then from there, you're on the path. It's not a direct, line of where you go. I'm at this level, so I'm USHL. I'm at this level, so I'm null. There's a lot of nuance in between all of that.
You done?
Did you want to contribute?
I just thought I'd put the clock up for you and let you know when you got to 10 minutes.
It's too late.
Yeah, everything you said is spot on. I think there's a couple things I want to reiterate, and maybe I haven't been as forceful or as convincing lately as possible, but a couple of things. The myth that if you play good, they'll find you is a myth, okay? Maybe it works for you, that you'll be found so you can play on a remote team or you can play at a lower level. But what Mike is saying is right dead on, spot on in the target. You need to be playing on the best team in the best league possible. Now, not everybody can play Tier 1 Elite. Not everybody can play HPHL. Not everybody can go to a prep school. But that's another conversation that we're going to have next week. Our next week topic is investment or a gamble. What's your sacrifice for your family? Are you investing or are you gambling if you put a lot of effort and money into this? A lot of people will argue that you have to make sacrifices and you have to do things that are extraordinary to make it to the next level. Many, many players do. Many players leave markets. You can look at the roster of the Lone Star Brahmas and talk about players that left their market to move to a U18 team or to leave their country to move to a different country to be able to get an opportunity to play at a high-level juniors to be able to move on to college. Sacrifice is huge, but it also is placement. You have to make sure you're playing, hey, look, like I said, do you have to be on the number 1 team in the nation? No, but it helps. Do you have to be on the number 2 team in the nation? No, but it helps. Why? Because it showcases people go watch the top teams. When people walk in the door, they don't go, hey, there's 30 teams here. I'm going to go watch 29 and 30 and see if I can root out some talent that nobody else finds. Well, maybe the lower level teams do in juniors because they know the top junior teams are going to be going after the top talent. But if you're looking to play at the best level of juniors, which is where you're going to have the best opportunity to move on to NCAA Division I and quality Division III programs, you're going to want to do that. So right off the bat, you have to market yourself. There's so many ways. I will put the link up again for the webinar that we have that walks you through how to market yourself. There's building a triangle of good people around you, building that source of information where everybody's on the same message, branding yourself, having different people advocating for you. Does it mean you need an advisor? That's subjective. Okay, everybody's opinion on advisors are different, and that has to do with how. Hey, look, if your dad is named Mario, you probably don't need an advisor. Okay, with the last name Lemieux. And, if your dad's Mario,
that's and the more important part.
Yeah,
the first name maybe not. Second, the last name, yeah.
If you're driving a little go-kart with a funny hat on and your name's Mario, it probably isn't helping you as much as the name Lemieux is. But it's extremely important. Mike, what else do you think, as far as that marketing mix or that ability to promote yourself, would you be worried about if you were a parent right now?
If you rephrase that, I'm not following where you want me to go with that
you
answer.
You weren't listening to me. You know that. You probably got something on TV beyond and you got a big screen on watching something else right now, like Housewives of Atlanta or something.
Yeah,
is that your show? Is that the big one you watch?
it's one of
Housewives?
them. Yeah, it's on the list.
I've never seen one of those kind of shows ever.
I'm sure you hit that title right out of the park, though.
The only one, because I had notes on making fun of you, so I had Housewives of Atlanta written. No, the only one we watch is The Voice. My wife loves The Voice, and
That's not
honestly,
the same reality. That's like a talent show.
it was fun though. It's fun, and
Yeah.
we enjoy watching that. So we actually tape those and watch them to get 2 or 3 in a row.
Ask your question in another way so I can pick up what you're saying.
I wanted to know if you were talking to a parent, what advice besides marketing mix and getting your name out there and branding, is there anything specifically that Mike Bloom would say, hey, I'd really like to see you do this if you're going to try to succeed just on the marketing side? What kind of things, or let's reverse that around. You get emails from players. What excites you in an email? If you get an email for what makes you open this email and be interested in a kid versus opening another one? That's a great question. That might be my best question of the year.
It is, but I'm not. Here's the thing. I'll read every email that I get sent, but there's very few times that the email is what generates my interest in a player. It's just more information it's actually opening a window of communication between us and that player, which is good, right? Because then now you may not have had that person's contact information before. Now you can actually start having a conversation. But I would say, I don't know what the percentages are, but let's say 10% of the emails I get, we actually are involved with trying to get that player a part of our program, whether it's bring them down for a skate, whether it's, maybe set up a Zoom call with their family, kind of get a better idea of who they are, what they're looking to do, how they might fit in.
Yep.
Bringing them to a camp of ours or something like that. Like, I would say that that's not as frequent that we have that type of a process as the amount of emails that come in. So when we get emails, I mean, you're literally getting emails from kids that are playing high school and, they're not at a high level. They're not playing in a state that has really good hockey at the high school level. So we know immediately, like, this is not even a player that could play within our league or maybe even the next junior league down. So the email itself, no matter how great it's crafted and no matter how good or easy the video links are to access, we already have an understanding at our level of what players are at the right level for us to communicate with. So I don't think there's any specific marketing or way that they could go about it. You have to understand who you are as a player and what your next step is. And it can't be, again, I'm playing AA and I'm going to have an opportunity to play in the North American League next year, no matter what AA you're playing.
Yeah. So that leads into a couple of things. NCAA Division I, NCAA Division III, ACHA Division I, ACHA Division II, ACHA Division III. There's at least 5, and then we're not even talking about AAU or Canadian college opportunities. There's at least 5 opportunities to play college hockey. The big debate is, where does ACHA fit in? Well, I can tell you this. You've got schools like Illinois State. You got schools like Adrian. You got schools, which Adrian has a powerhouse D3. What's that?
Ohio is really strong, D1.
Ohio. I think Miami of Ohio also is strong. Yeah, UNLV. Some of these schools, UNC, University of North Carolina, North Carolina State, some of those programs in North Carolina, they have a game once a year where there's 8,000 people at the game. Okay. A lot of these Division I programs and Division II, depending on your program, because if there's a Division I program, a lot of times they're not allowed to have a Division I NCAA. They're not allowed to have a ACHA Division I. Now, I guess there's some exceptions to that. I don't know. I should have asked Michael about this when he was on. But there is some exceptions, but pretty much that is a general rule. But these programs, some of them recruit hard. They have incentives. They couple things together that makes it very easy for a player to say yes and to play. A lot of them have their own locker rooms. They travel just the same way by the same kind of bus that a really good junior program or a college NCAA program travels. In many cases, they've got a better budget than some of the D3 programs. And I hate to say that, but that's the truth. Now, I would never say, because here's the big misnomer. Now, a lot of people will say this, oh, ACHA hockey is better than Division III. Okay, all you have to do to spell that. Now, there's always anomalies, you know that. There's always an opportunity to say, well, look at this team. When Lindenwood was building up their team to go Division I, their program was awesome. When Penn State was getting ready to go Division I, Arizona, when they were getting ready to go Division I, they had some powerhouse programs. And yes, they had a lot of players that were college hockey players, NCAA college hockey players on their rosters. In general, all you have to do is pull up a roster, and you'll see there's not many USHL or NAHL guys, and even I would say NCDC guys that are playing at that level. Where are the majority of the guys coming from? They're coming from Tier 3 juniors. In general, that is across the board. You don't have to argue it. You just have to look at the stats. I don't play subjectivity on this. I just tell you exactly where things are coming from. So that's one thing right off the bat. Yes, is there teams out there that are phenomenal? Yes, they pieced together some great players that maybe for whatever reason didn't play Null or didn't play USHL and are great players that end up playing ACHL. And there's also guys that are playing ACHL for a lot of other reasons. Injury took them out. They weren't a fit at their school. They just had enough, whatever the case may be, or they're going to grad school and they have different plans in mind for their academics. I had one of my best players ever in my coaching career choose to go play ACHA hockey because the degree wasn't offered anywhere except for one school. And this is one of those high-tech engineering degrees, and just opted out of playing. It could have played not everywhere, but for a lot of Division I programs. But they said, no, I want this degree from right here. So, it happens, but it's good to know that and understand that's how it works. Okay. Vincenzo, we get it. Okay. Bedard scored. That happened a long time ago. That's like well over an hour and a half ago. So I get it. And you think that Mike has got the game on in the background. Okay, I get it. So
I don't have that on.
So with that said, I want to peruse through a couple more of the comments and try to kind of hit some of the big things. A lot of people were following this and commenting on this. The other thing too is age. Mike, talk about the difference between the ages, what the USHL, what your age group is, the NAL, what the age group is, Tier 3 juniors, what the age group is, and kind of walk through that a little bit.
Yeah, so the USHL historically is going to be a younger league. They're going to pull their kids, if they're ready, right after their U15 season, but most likely after their U16 season. So all the top AAA players that are playing, those players are going to end up in the USHL almost right away, or like I said, after a year of another season of midget hockey. And then what you'll find is the U18 players, whether their first year U18s coming out or their second year, those are when the players are going to move on to the North American League or the NCDC in some cases. And, so you're going to get a 17, 18, 19-year-old player going into the NAL at that point, whereas in the USHL, you're still going to have 18, 19, and some 20-year-olds, but they'll have been growing within the league from the time they were 16, 17, and then so on. So, the majority of the kids in the USHL are going to be the 16, 17, 18, because there's still the 20-year-old rule where I think they can only have 4 in the USHL. So you can't have a whole team of 20-year-olds
right.
And try to make a run at it like you can in the NAL. And the NAL is going to have a lot of teams that have, I would say 50% in some cases, if they can, of age outs or 20-year-olds, and then the rest will be 19s and 18-year-olds. But you're not going to see barely any 16s and even barely any 17s, maybe a couple, maybe 5, 6, 7 guys across the league.
Right. So I'm going to try to pull up the screen again. Let's see if I do a better job this time so we can okay, here's the null. You got that, Michael? Can you see that?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. So let's see if I can expand that out a little bit. All right, here's the null. I just want to walk you down and walk you through some numbers on here. I have the premium, whatever they call it. But first of all, nationality-wise, you can see that the Null, as far as makeup, is almost 80% American. That's a big misnomer from a lot of people, that there's a lot of Canadians. 10%, 10, 11% Canadians. And then, between the two, there's like 10% of the rest of the world, But the other thing, too, is if we walk down and look at the ages by comparison, here is the Null by age. And I want to highlight over here on the right, the column. Anybody can pull this up. The average age right now of players, Aberdeen, 19 years old. Now, this is today on these teams. Average age 19, average age 19.26, average age 18. So you don't see too many teams that are averaging right at 18 or below 8. I don't think you're going to see any team. They're all at 19 or right hovering at close to 19. That means that their average age of these teams are going to turn as a couple weeks go by. They're going to, they keep getting older every day. They're going to turn 19 pretty quick. Now, why is that important to know? I want to show you something else on here. I'm going to jump back up to, I think I've shown you this before. If you pull up the Null as a league, and we scroll down past all the standings, where's Lone Star at? Oh, they're in first place in the South. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. This is the player stats button, but why I pulled this player stats button up is I'm going to go up here and I'm just going to put in age. So I'm going to let's see these, enter birth year. So what is a 17-year-old now, age-wise, Mike?
In 07? 08? No, I'm sorry, 06.
06?
Yeah.
06 is 17. Okay,
depending on their birth year.
I want to look and see how many 2006s are playing in the league right now. Okay, so 2006s right now there's 38. Now that sounds like a lot, but I want you to look at this over here. Here's games played, and I want you to look at the fact that you've got players that saw one game, and those guys, if I don't want to embarrass or highlight any individual players and pull them up, but the majority of those guys are back to where they started with. They're back at U18. They've moved to the North American 3 League. They've moved on. These guys up here, maybe the 5-game guys maybe still around, but then you start looking at guys that have played, the majority of the season already. You're only talking about 20 or less. I would say that number is probably somewhere around 15. So,
yeah, and if you stay on that page right there and you look at the couple guys that have a lot of games play, you'll see like there's 3 guys that play for Maryland on there.
Yep.
I believe just looking at their names, all 3 of those guys played on the U16 Little Caesars team last year that won nationals. So Going back to your conversation on if you play for a really good team, you're going to get more opportunities to move on. Those kids moved on to the Null. And I know that there's probably about another 5 to 6 to 7 kids from that same team that are in the USHL right now too.
So look at the 2007 age group. For the Null, there is none. Okay, there is none. So if you're talking about younger players playing, then you go to 2005. Of course, this is when you'll kick in and you'll see the number, drive. 2055 is not going to work. Let's go 2005, and we throw that number on, and you look at the amount of players that are 2005. Sorry about that. Trying to expand the screen a little bit so everybody can see. 2005's that number is going to be, now we're only talking about forwards and Ds here, what didn't do the goalies. There's 167. So it starts jumping up there, and if you look at goalies too, there's another 20 that are goalies. So less than 200 are in that 05 category right now. And then we can just move up and show how the progression goes. You look at the 04 class. I think it'll pull up. I don't know why it won't. 04s, now we're looking at a list that's 306 players long. So you can kind of get the idea that as you go along and you try to move up the ladder, age is a significant factor in the North American Hockey League. You're not going to be young in that league. Statistically, you're just not going to be young. And like Mike said, if you are young, you're coming from one of the nation's best programs historically, one of the best programs. And that's why if you're playing somewhere else, if you're playing at a high level, but you're 60th in the nation as far as the rankings go, and you're on the third line, the odds of you moving into the null are very, very slim. Now, not saying it doesn't happen. I'm just saying play the odds in your favor, if that makes any sense to you. Mike, anything?
No, I think showing just the actual numbers goes a long way. I don't think anything else has to be said.
Okay. You comment on that one, Mike.
Oh, I'm stand corrected.
Yeah. You said it, not me.
Vincenzo would know. He's part of the Gulls program. So
Yep. So anyway, that should give us. There's a lot of people following that thread, and the biggest thing is to understand with this whole process is that you got to get to the best level you can get to. Not everybody can play for the Gulls. Not everybody can play for Little Caesars or Victory Honda or Oakland or the Mission. But by gosh, if you're playing a team that's playing them, that's going to help you. And those are just teams that fall into either independence or the Tier 1 Elite. You've got a lot of good players, teams that are playing the HPHL that'll come back up next year, hopefully, or playing some of the powerhouses on the East Coast. So I hope that helps a little bit. Anybody have any questions on that, feel free to jump on and let us know what your question is, and we'll try to get to it. The other thing I wanted to mention with this is the difference between one of the big differences between Tier 3 juniors and the null and above. When I say the null, it's the null, BCHL, USHL. Subjectively, you can argue the NCDC too, but as far as the output for the NCDC, it's not at the same level as those other three leagues. It's not even close to the same level. We're talking about less than 10% of their total. Honestly, here's the best way to look at it, and this is statistically. Anybody can pull this number up and look at it. You can go to do it through the Elite Prospects. You can do it through College Hockey Inc. One team in the USHL, one good team in the null, produces as much as the whole NCDC league does as far as new NCAA Division I commitments a year. That doesn't mean that the NCDC doesn't have a lot of Division I commitments. They happen elsewhere. All leagues get players that got their commitments elsewhere. Some guys get them at 16s. They get them at prep. If you're playing in Minnesota, you might have got your commitment while you're in high school, and then you go play junior somewhere. That's fine. I'm not saying that. I'm talking about if you haven't got a commitment yet and you join a junior team, what leagues produce the most fresh during that season commitments? It's going to be one of those leagues. It's going to be the BCHL, the North American Hockey League, and the USHL. Not in that order, but those are the three leagues, period. Statistically, you can look that up. I've done plenty of video on this, and we've done a lot of pulling up all the numbers for you. I'm not going to do that tonight, but you got to know that. So what's the difference, though? What's the difference between just, one you got to pay for, one's free, and that doesn't matter. All three of those leagues are free, but the biggest difference is you have to treat a null experience as a job. You have to treat a USHL experience as a job. I can tell you right now as a parent, I knew that going in because I used to be an owner. I was a GM. I was a coach. I know the amount of commitment it takes at those levels. My son didn't get it at first. And then he started understanding that it probably took him half a season to understand. You check in at 9 and you start your day working, and then it ends somewhere between 3 and 5 every day. Okay, some days a little bit later. And then you've got on top of that, you've got your social commitments that the team sets up. In other words, some days you might be reading a book in a classroom. Some days you might be going to a restaurant. You might be doing a radio interview, a restaurant to meet and greet fans. You might be doing a jersey signing. There might be an event that's a charity event that the team's going to. There might be a rodeo in town, and the team has to go out and wave to the fans with their jerseys on in between events. All those things those are all real events, by the way. Those are the things that you do when you play juniors. You're getting there, you're showing up. If you got to get treatment for an injury, you're getting treatment for an injury. If you got to get taped up, you're getting taped up for the injury. You're going out and you may have video meetings with your coaches. You might have just chalk talks with your coaches. You might have individual sessions with your coaches. You go on for practice. You come off, you do your weight training. Then there might be individual skill sessions. There might be a more breakdown of film individually. There's so many things that are going on, but it is a full day. Tier 3 hockey is not a full day. Okay, there's very, very few programs that are going through that level, except for the top 3 leagues. Now, once again, we're not talking major junior. They do the same thing at major juniors, your OHLs and your Western League and your Quebec League. That's a different topic for not for our show here and not for our league here, or not our league, but our audience here. So I just want to make sure you understand that is a job. And why do you have to look at it as a job? Because it is. You have an ownership group that brought you in to help win games, put butts in seats, and get guys up to the next level. The next level being the NCAA. So if you're not looking at that and you go to play at the NOL level, the BCHL level, or if you're fortunate, the USHL level, you have to have that mentality. It's a full day, 7 days a week. Mike, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think a lot of the tier 3 programs that I know of, they do have it more of like a full day. So they're starting to turn that corner. But again, when you're talking about tier 3 juniors, you're talking about almost 200 total teams. So within there, the teams that I move my players onto are going to be the ones where it's more of a full day, because that's the experience that they're looking for, and that's also going to help them improve. But I know what you're saying. Across the board, not all program is created equal at the tier 3 level. At the tier 1 and tier 2 level, arguments can be made that they're all not created equal, but what a player is getting as far as like a time in their day is pretty similar at every single program.
The biggest difference is the standard deviation between one USHL team and another is very narrow, very narrow. The worst team in that league is still getting, quality coaching for the most part. You can argue compared to the best team in the league, the difference. They're managed well. They've got marketing in place. They're putting fans in seats. All those things are happening. Now, once again, there is somebody that will fall out that's an outlier that doesn't fit into that category all the time. You go to the NOL, it goes from 16 teams, now you're to 32 teams in the next step down. That standard deviation might be just a little bit bigger than the USHL from top to bottom, but still the quality across the board is extremely high. You've got great coaches all over the place. There's consistency. The teams are consistent. They're all very, very good. You start dropping down, like you said, into tier 3 hockey. Now you look at the span of 200 teams. That standard deviation doesn't just move a little bit. It opens up very, very wide. You have some teams that have volunteer coaches playing at tier 3. I know several teams that they're non-paid coaches. Some are a one-man shop. The coach is the owner, and he's the general manager, and he's doing everything himself. Some play in rinks that don't have a fan base. Some have a really good fan base for tier 3 hockey. It's just so wide, the bandwidth. Some have a full staff. Some have one person. So it's very, very difficult to think that there is an equality. And now let's just talk about the thing you mentioned. And this is a good comment that was made. Somebody was, when the question came up is, how do you get to the NOL? How do you get to USHL? One of the comments was, you got to be on the best team and be one of the better players. Yes. Let's not forget, this is all about talent. This is all about talent. You're not going to get there just because you want to be there. Okay.
Right.
You can't just want something and wish for something. You have to have a skill set that fits your work ethic and combine those two. So, yes, it's attitude, work ethic, and I would put attitude, there. We're in this every day, Mike and I, and we see players that have the skill set. They have a good work ethic, but the attitude's different. Maybe they like to have a little fun more than they should. Maybe they don't take seriously the leadership on the team. Maybe they think they're better than the position they have on the team. Attitude can get in a way and ruin a great hockey player's ability to move up to the next level. So it's just not talent and work ethic. You can say, well, my son's the greatest worker ever. That's great. Is he one of the best hockey players out there along with that work ethic? Because you can coach a kid up to be a better worker, okay? Some kids can work on skill development every day for the last 10 years before they turn 18. From 8 to 18, they can work on skill development and still not be one of the best players out there. So it's, and you don't get credit for the investment, folks. Okay, that's the biggest thing that really I think you have to understand. You can't say, we've spent $30,000 in development over the last 3 years, and by gosh, we deserve it. Nope, doesn't work that way. It absolutely does not work that way. You can spend all the money you want in development, but unless it's actually working, and then there's the God-given attributes. If you're 6'4", they'll take a chance on a 6'4" player that might be marginal in one of those other categories, but they're not going to take a shot. They're not going to take a chance, let's say, on a 5'2" kid. If you're 5'2" and 105 and you're 18 years old, very, very seldom do you see anybody that size make it in the first place with everything going for them. But if you're marginal in any category, that there are guys that are short, there are guys that are thin that make it to the next level. But boy, oh boy, they're just packing a lot of good things in that talent and in that work ethic and all those other categories, attitude, all those things. Is that anything you want to add, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I got a couple stories if we got time to share.
You got time for, okay, you just said, do we have time? Let's check the clock. The clock says...
The clock said you've been speaking for 43 out of the 54 minutes that we've been on this thing.
You can interrupt me at any time, or you can get your own clock.
I don't have any tools over here. I'm behind a curtain.
Yeah, bring a clock. You can shut me up at any time.
So, just going off of some of what you were talking about, but the biggest thing is, of course, the kid needs to have the ability, right, to get to some of these next levels, but they also need the work ethic. And, a couple stories of kids that I've coached or even kids that I coached against that ended up moving on and making it at really high levels that at the time, again, I've been at the AA or even the high school level for the last 20 years plus. So I'm not coaching AAA kids. I'm moving my kids to AAA so then they can move on from there. So I had a kid, probably about 15 years ago now, maybe 10, who was playing for me when I was coaching high school. And he was a freshman that made the varsity team, really good, talented player, but very small, undersized, and thin. And at the end of the year, he said, I really want to play in the USHL. What can I do to play in the USHL? And I said, well, first, you can't play here. This is not a path to get you there. So we got to get you on a workout program. We got to get you to AAA. So that offseason, he worked his tail off, ended up making one of the Chicago AAA teams here, the Chicago Fury, who have a really good off-ice program and things like that. Over the next 2 seasons, that kid was the hardest worker in the gym. And they have, even if you go into their gym now, they've got people's names on the wall of like who squatted the most and who, from all the years that they've played. And that kid is on the top of all of those. And I'm telling you, his legs were the size of my arms when he was playing for me. And he built himself into this solid kid. He ended up making the Chicago Steel and playing 2 years, getting a Division I scholarship, and got to his goal. How many
years you been coaching, Mike?
Over 20 years.
Over 20 years. You coach sometimes 2 teams a year. You scout in the null. You run a scouting program in the null. You just don't scout there. You are the right-hand man of a general manager coach in the null. How many times can you say you've had that experience?
It's not often. It's not one a year. It's he from a high school standpoint.
My point. My point is not to really be a number. It's extremely rare that you can just work yourself into it. There's a lot of other attributes that went along with that kid that allowed that to happen. Here's the thing that there is no there's no pun on Mike's name. So all of you out there, and Mike, there are no such thing as late bloomers, in my opinion. Now, people go, oh, well, so-and-so. Here's the big story. Well, Michael Jordan got cut when he was in high school. He didn't make the team as a sophomore. Okay, Michael Jordan was 5'10" when he was a sophomore, and he grew to 6'6" the next year. Okay? There was 30 kids that could do what he could do that were 5'2" to 5'10", okay? When he got to 6'6" and could do what he could do, all of a sudden now, North Carolina's knocking on the door, and he's a phenomenal athlete, became the world's greatest, arguably. I think he is the world's greatest basketball player. He played with Scottie Pippen. They could say, well, Scottie Pippen was a college team manager. He didn't even play. He grew 10 inches, okay? He was pushing 7 feet when he finally made it to the college levels. Then they talk about the other guy, Dennis Rodman. Dennis Rodman played community college. He wasn't even playing basketball. Once again, he grew a foot, okay? All those athletes were not late bloomers. They were late growers, okay? So when you think that there's this shot that you're just going to bloom into a great hockey player and magically your skill level is going to change and it's going to move you up to the next level, now there is a little margin there for you to start understanding the game better, and you get a better understanding. The game becomes slower for you, and you can see the ice better. You can argue that comes later as a player develops, but it becomes later for all hockey players, not just your son. So if you think that all of a sudden magically he's a late bloomer, you can be a late worker. Like Mike was talking about, that kid got serious about it and took and transformed himself because he was a late worker. He didn't do that early on. He started putting an effort into it, and it paid off for him. I see a lot of players that are late workers, but late bloomers, meaning that it's just magically going to happen for you? No. And the argument can be made. You look at a guy like Herschel Walker, Deion Sanders, all these guys that you just go, I think I'll go play another sport. Okay, that's because they worked their butt off to be able to get to that level to go play another sport. They didn't late bloom into baseball. Michael Jordan, when he decided to go play baseball, he made it an obsession to become a better baseball player and worked at it. He didn't magically, and to play AA, AAA at that age without ever, really being serious about the sport or not professionally or at college level. It was a miracle. And he literally did it. And if you followed that at all, he could have actually moved up another level or two at that age. You're an Illinois guy, Chicago guy. What was he? He was in his mid-30s when he did that? I can't remember.
Yeah, I would say mid-30s, mid to early 30s.
Uncanny, just unbelievable. I know I'm ranting, but there are no late bloomers. If you want this, you can work your way up a little bit, but not much. It's not going to change your life. There's the 1 in a million shot or 1 in 100,000 shot, but you've got to be grinding at this and moving yourself at an early age to move up through the process. You can't start at 18 and go, and I saw the comment from a couple people going, oh yeah, just graduate and move on and you'll be fine. No, you got to be putting an effort into this. 14, 15, 16 years old, it's got to be a commitment that that's what you want if you're going to play at that next level, at the highest level possible. Mike, anything on that?
Yeah, I know that I had a couple stories to share, and you took a long route to
that. Was less than a minute right there, just so you know.
Yeah. But no, I mean, the work ethic's got to match the talent, and you can't have one without the other, but you for sure can't have, no work ethic, because at some point, I always tell the kids that I coach, when you're, 8 years old and you turn 9 years old and you turn 10 years old, you're getting bigger and stronger because you're getting older. You're getting 1 year older. Once you get to puberty, now everything depends on what you do off the ice, getting into the gym, doing all this other stuff. So again, you need the talent, and then you need to match that with the work ethic. So, just again, another story, I'll tie two in together. I had a team that I coached where I had 2 kids playing U15, U16 for me at the AA level, 97 birth years. I'm sorry. Both of those kids, again, they wanted to play at a higher level than where they were at. They wanted to get to juniors, USHL or NA. And at the end of the year, we said, you got to get to AAA. You got to get back there. So one was a forward, one was a D, off the exact same team. One went to the Mission, one went to Team Illinois. The forward was the top scorer at the end of the year for his team at the U18 level. The D was the number 1 D on their team. Both of them ended up going to the NAL the next year. Our forward ended up going to the USHL the year after that. Both of them got Division I scholarships. The defenseman went to Alaska. The forward went to Bemidji State, and both had really productive careers. And they came from, they played AAA when they were younger, but then ended up getting forced back to AA. And there's still a path for these kids to get there, But again, both of those kids, extremely hard workers off the ice. They had the natural talent, and finally they both matched at the right time, and they ended up getting to their goals and wanting to get there.
With one would argue though, Mike, that the program that you're involved with and the program that you're building isn't necessarily a natural AA program compared to what is out there at the AA level for most people. So it's I would argue back a little bit, saying, come on, Mike, you work in the know, you know what you're looking for, you know how to place players. So we can't give that AA the same move down to your
I'll give you another story. So coaching against a kid that played in Colorado, and I'd have to play against him twice a year. Every time we played him, this kid would kill us by himself, and I'm like, who is this kid? And he ended up going to play for, I want to say, the Thunderbirds his U18 year. Again, leading scorer for his team his first year playing AAA. We ended up taking him at Lone Star. He played 1 year of AAA hockey, but again, he did enough through his body of work to get that opportunity, and he played 3 years for us, and now is playing NCAA D3. It's stories like that are common, but there's a common theme to those stories working, and I think that's what parents need to understand.
Yeah. So Vanessa jumps on and says, hard to develop to the next level if you aren't surrounded by top talent and speed. That's a very, very true statement. Need to compete against the best to become the best. I could not say that any better, but the reason why you're not on the show, Vanessa, is because you said it too concisely and precisely. We need to elongate and talk a lot. So when you say something that makes so much sense, we can't do that. We got to elaborate and talk and elongate and, basically talk with more words. So thanks, Vanessa. I appreciate that. That was very honest in what you're saying. Fully appreciate that comment. It is the truth. But what Vanessa says makes a lot of sense. She's saying it a different way. We say be the top player in the top leagues. She's just calling a spade a spade. You got to play against speed. If you're playing Minnesota high school hockey, there's a good chance you're going to be playing against really good players. If you're playing Illinois high school hockey, there's a chance that the game is bogged down a little bit with players that aren't at the same level you're at. New York is the same way. There's only a few programs in New York that have have players that are really, really good on their teams, unless they're still playing AAA and they only come and play high school for a little bit and then they go back to their AAA team. So, so here's a comment, Mike. What do you think about this? Hard work beats talent when talent does not work. Do you agree with that?
I think in a single game, yes, that's 100% accurate.
I would throw some names out that may not, remember, there's a third of the NHL that used to smoke cigarettes and literally crack a beer, during games. And that's not uncommon. Guy Lafleur used to smoke like half a pack during a game. He'd step off the bench to go get another dart and smoke it, and I'm not kidding. I've actually witnessed this before with the NHL level. It's not that way anymore, but there's a lot of talented players that remember. And here's why I'll push back on that a little bit. Stephen, I'm not pushing back on everything because I do agree that hard work is extremely important. But if you're super talented, a coach is probably going to take a flyer on trying to hit all the boxes and take a chance on you. I know as a coach, I know as our program, that we're involved in, you'll take a flyer and take a shot on a guy that is super, super talented to see if you can overcome work ethic. Now, probably in most cases, you don't get the results you want from a guy that doesn't work hard. But boy, oh boy, it's like anything else. There are guys that in all sports that always don't work hard and can still do it. Look at John Daly. John Daly in golf compared to Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods literally makes the quote, if I had his talent, I'd probably sit around and drink all the time too and smoke cigarettes because the guy was so gifted that he could pull it off. Now, there's other issues with his life that we don't have to get into, but my point is coaches will take a flyer from time to time on that issue there, just like a coach will take a flyer at the NCAA Division I level on academics. You'll see guys that are scraping by to get on great D1 teams. And why? Because they're so talented that coaches can't pass it up. And, no matter what your ethics and your morals are, coaches will justify it by saying, I'm giving the kid a chance. Usually the leash is shorter on attitude or work ethic, but they'll still give them a chance. Mike, do you agree with that?
Oh, I know it definitely happens. I'm one that personally, I don't even go down that path. We'll pass on that player for the team that I coach.
Right.
I'm the one that's coaching that kid, recommending a kid for juniors or whatever else. You recommend them, but you basically, share all of what that coach is going to get, and then that's up to them on whether or not they want to take on that challenge or not.
I don't know how many times I've said this. He'll be your fastest player. He'll be your most skilled player. But and then you got to kind of throw that other side in there,
Yes.
He just got out of prison, or whatever the case may be. So, all right, here's a good question. Then we got to start wrapping this up. Is it better? This is an awesome question.
This is a really good question,
Mike. You got it. Take it.
Oh my God, I don't know if I want to answer it. Wow, that's a really good question. So,
read it. People can't always see it if they're on their phone.
All right. So if Bud says, is it better to play third or fourth line? You got to put it up so I can read it.
I know. There we go.
Is it better to play third or fourth line with no special teams on a top 10 team, or first line on a team that's ranked in the 30s or 40s, where you get to play both power play and penalty kill? So for those, trying to figure out what he's talking about, 30s and 40s would be off of my hockey rankings, meaning they're going to rank you nationally of the different games and teams you played against. So 30s and 40s still have really good teams. It's not as good as those top teams, but boy, I would have to say, to be honest with you, if you're in a team in the 30s and you're a top line player playing all situations and all minutes, I would say that's the better situation for you, rather than being kind of buried on the roster.
100% agree with you. 100% agree. I think that playing on that team where you get more opportunity, as long as you're above that threshold, and that's a subjective line. Is it 25, top 25, top 30, top 40? That's subjective, but you're going to be playing in showcases and tournaments, and you're going to be playing against those other top teams. You're going to get your opportunity to go up against whoever the top teams are that year, the Gulls or the Mission or Honey Baked or whoever the top teams are. Sometimes those are the 25s and 30s I just mentioned, but the historically good programs. You're going to get your shot to prove yourself. You're going to get playing time and the confidence that comes with that. Now, obviously, playing on one of those top 10 teams, top 5 teams, gives you more opportunity to be visible, because every time you step on the ice, there's a good chance that your video or your live presentation of your skills is on display. It might not be as much, and I'll give you an example. I go to a showcase, when I put my list of the teams I'm going to watch together, I'm going, ooh, that's the top team in the nation right now. I want to see them play. Oh, that's the best team in the nation. I want to see them play. Oh, that kid, he's playing on the top 5 team. I'm usually not going, ooh, look at that. The 31st place team is playing the 50th place team. I want to go watch that. Now, if there's nothing else going on and I'm still in the building, I'll go watch those other games, or I might stop in and watch because I know there's a certain player that reached out to us, or somebody else recommended I watch a kid. But for the most part, it's also different because of the level we're scouting for. If you're scouting for a really good Tier 3 team, NCDC team, you might be watching other games too. But, if you're pulling from the NAL level, you're looking for the best of the best. And you'll say, well, geez, that you're not in the USHL. Well, USHL guys by U18 are not playing in the Tier 1 Elite League, or they're not playing U18 for the most part. They might work their way back into the USHL via the BCHL, via the North American Hockey League, but there are very few U18 players that are making the jump. 16s, yes. There's a vast majority of the best 16s are going to the USHL, but the best 17-year-olds are not going to the USHL. When they turn 18, they're going over and playing in the NAL or the BCHL. Anything else to add to that, Mike?
Well, I would just say, if we start moving those rankings down, where if you're talking about, using the same logic, but now you're in like the 70s or 80s, as far as where your team's ranked, When my team plays tournaments, we'll play AAA teams in that kind of range of where they're ranked, like anywhere between 70s to 100 and whatever, and we'll beat those teams. And my guys are not moving into the North American League. So, the AAA kids aren't also moving into the North American League that are playing at that level. So it doesn't apply when you start going down further down the rankings of that team, of the logic we just said. If you're in the 30s and 40s, that's still a team that's going to compete for, going to nationals and trying to get out of their regionals and things like that.
Yep.
So being able to play and be in all situations is really important and is going to help their development.
But I hope that answered the question. If it didn't, call. I'll leave Mike's number. I'll DM you and give you Mike's personal number. Give him a call. He'll be glad to spend an hour or two with you on that one. Thanks, bud. That was a good question. Next week, we'll get into the advisors and we'll get into the contracts. Running a little bit late. I got a couple shameless plugs. Our YouTube channel, Junior Hockey Advisor. Jump on, subscribe. We're this close to being able to hit that 1,000 mark. We need to hit that 1,000 mark to keep all this stuff rolling, to stay on plan, to keep this machine going. You guys are such a great audience. We had unbelievable numbers last week just off the Facebook feed of this. I think we pushed 1,000 viewers on Facebook, let alone what was on YouTube and on LinkedIn and on Twitter and all the other places we were going. We're going to talk in more detail about the ACHA. A couple things coming up. Next week, once again, we're going to talk about sacrifice. We're going to talk about, is it a gamble or is it an investment? We're going to talk in detail, and we're going to give some examples that will blow your mind about what sacrifice means. And sacrifice is relative to your family. It's relative to your situation. What one person thinks is a sacrifice, the other person thinks natural. We'll get into all that next week. It's going to be an unbelievable topic. It's going to be a lot of fun. You got to be there. Share this. Please, please, please share this. If you like the content, share it with a teammate. Recommend it to a teammate or a former coach or your assistant coach or somebody else. If you're an advisor, and we've got over 200 advisors on our Facebook discussion group now. 200, okay? If you're an advisor, share it with your other advisors in the office. Give them the information. Let them get smarter at this. Because one thing I don't like about advisors are most of them came into the game one way, and they stay in that niche. They don't try to expand and learn more about the other leagues. They find one thing they're successful at without venturing into it. And that's where ACHA comes in. That's where Canadian junior hockey comes in. All those things that most people don't have as much knowledge as they should have. The other thing, too, is we are looking for the best 30 people in junior hockey under the age of 30. If you know a coach, if you know a GM, an assistant GM, if you know, I'll even say advisors that are in that category. It's under 30 years age and they're dynamic and they've got a wow factor to them. DM Mike, DM myself, let us know about them. Write a little bit of a write-up on them. Let us know. We're going to be putting together our 30 under 30 list of coaches and GMs, people in the hockey industry, the professionals that are making this game better, that are young and are upcoming. This is going to help you as a parent, because then you can match up. If let's say they're a tier 3 junior coach and they're hot, they're somebody that's dynamic and moving up. Hey, catch a rising star. Jump on that if you can. You'll know where they're at. We're going to put a list together for you and help you navigate with some of the exciting people coming up through the game, and hopefully that helps. That's about it. Like and follow us on the YouTube page. Mike, anything else?
No, we appreciate it. We had some good viewers today, a lot of comments and things like that. So if you're kind of sitting back watching us or whatever, and you do have questions, throw them out there so we can talk about it live on the air.
So the time of broadcast times, we've been all over the board on our broadcast times. Normally, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. is what we've been shooting for. But because we're both in hockey, that doesn't always work out. We have the option of doing this pre-broadcast and just publishing it at times. What we're probably going to end up doing is just rebroadcasting this show and putting it on Facebook again, or at least putting reminders on there. These are all recorded. You can grab them at any time. But live 7 p.m. on Wednesdays. And then we have not factored in that normally I do the Junior Hockey Advisor, where we talk about basically what we're talking about now is not going to be in Wednesday. Wednesday is going to be strictly Junior Hockey Live. And we're going to transition over to that in the next few weeks here, where we kind of combined them into one show a week right now. As the season's gone on, we'll split it off. Sunday night or Monday night will be our discussion on the things we talked about tonight, all the process, the behind the scenes. Then on Wednesday, we'll talk about the actual teams, the actual players, and the actual coaches. 30 Under 30 will be on Wednesdays. That's a Junior Hockey Live thing where we'll actually spend time talking about what's going on in the game of juniors from a not from a fan standpoint, but more elaborating about specific teams, specific coaches, and specific leagues. We'll get into more detail on that, if that makes sense to everybody. Thanks for mentioning that. Mike, great job tonight. Once again, congratulations to Michael Hernbrot for his incredible Hall of Fame award and that achievement. I'm still a little bit miffed on why I wasn't mentioned at least once or twice in his acceptance speech. I'll put that speech up for you, though. He did an awesome job. It's fun to see his success and see what he's done for that program. All right, Michael, we'll see you next week. Good job. Folks, thank you so much. Say goodnight, Mike.
I thought I was up to a time limit. I couldn't say any more.
Oh, you're going to pull the last card
You're
out.
right. That's right. Time to go to bed, Jeff.
Yeah. Warm milk time. Good night, everybody.
See ya.